So good evening and welcome to the Division 1 and Division 7 Candidates Forum for the 2021 municipal election. My name is Bruce Beatty and it's my pleasure to be the moderator for this evening's candidate forums. Given the nature of COVID-19 pandemic, traditional methods of connecting with municipal candidates have been more challenging. As such, we have put together a night of interaction to help electors get to know candidates better and to give candidates an opportunity to have their platform heard. A couple of housekeeping matters. Viewers joining us on Zoom are encouraged to keep their microphones muted to ensure an efficient process. So please keep your microphones muted. Although residents have already submitted a number of questions proactively, any viewers that would like to ask additional questions can do so by submitting them through the chat box to the moderator. If time permits, we will try to get to additional questions that may be provided. Candidates must use the microphone system to be heard, so you must turn on your microphones in order for the people online to hear you. We'll have 3 rounds. Round 1, candidates by random draw, which was done previously, will be permitted 3 minutes to introduce themselves and provide a short opening statement. During round 2, questions will be posed to candidates. All candidates will have an opportunity to provide a 2-minute answer to the question. There is no debate permitted. Very important point. In this round, we will draw the order for the first question, which has already been done, and then we'll rotate for each subsequent question to provide all candidates a chance to answer first, and perhaps more usefully last, because it'll give you time to think about the question. During round 3, candidates by random draw, which again has already been determined, will be permitted 2 minutes to introduce themselves, provide any comments, and provide a short closing statement. Just also as a note, this evening will be recorded and will be available on the county website after tomorrow morning. With that, let me introduce the candidates to participate in the forum. In Division 1, we have Dwayne Fulton and Ed Shaw. And in Division 7, we have David Doyle, Alex Hogarth, and Jennifer Lutz. By random draw, the order of the opening statements, we will start with Ed. So if you would start, Ed.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to present at this forum. And I want to congratulate all of the candidates that are applying for this job. A lot of my history is on the county webpage as well as my website, which is edwardshaw.ca. But I'll give you kind of a brief overview. My father was one of the first Shaws to be born on the Scarlet Ranch in 1917, that they took over the Scarlet Ranch, my granddad did. I've been farming, or in the community, we've been farming ever since, so we're long time community people in here. I've been very involved with the activities in the county and in the provincially as well. But I started my service to the governance when the Rural Fire Board in Carstairs started. I was a board member there for a number of years. I'm past president of the Carstairs Legion. I'm currently alumni president of Olds College. Provincially, I past president of the Canadian Association of Disabled Skiers, and I'm also a volunteer in that activity. On the national stage, I participate in a lot of the agricultural forums, as well as 2 committees on the Government of Alberta, the Drought Excess Moisture Advisory Committee to the Minister of Agriculture, as well as the Red Tape Reduction Committee. And federally, I'm a director of the National Association of CADs, and I participated in many of the activities for provincial international trips, as well as federal with the ministers. I graduated from Olds College. After graduating from the high school, I married my wife of Sandra of 49 years this month. All of our children were educated at Carstairs and have grown up and have very productive lives. And we really appreciate what the county has given for us. The skills I have, I bring forward with my international business skills are listening, decision-making, responsible for my decisions. In my traits, I'm I'm optimistic. The cup is always half full. I see a lot of opportunities for this county. It's in an ideal situation. Opportunities for diversification of our tax base and increasing the profile of our county. The knocking on the doors and traveling around this Division 1 is a huge, it's about 230 kilometers in circumference. It's got a lot of diversification. So I hope to be able to meet all of them and meet their needs. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. So next, Dwayne, please.
Thank you, Bruce. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in tonight on Zoom. It's definitely a different format, but anyway, I'm Dwayne Fulton, and it has been my privilege and an honor to serve as counselor for Division 1. A little bit about me. I'm a 50-year-old farmer, reside and farm on the family farm west of Carstairs, just 4 miles west. I'll be celebrating 24 years of marriage this in November to my wife Shannon. We have 2 adult daughters who both live and work in Calgary. In my spare time, I've been a spare school bus driver for Chinook's Edge for 15 years. I enjoy curling and I play slow pitch in the summer. Before council, I was heavily involved in the community, past president of the Carstairs District Agricultural Society, past president of the Calgary 4-H region, past president of the Mountain View 4-H district, past president of the Calgary District Hereford Club, past chairman of the Carstairs District 4-H Steer Show and Sale, a director on the Alberta Hereford Association, and a member on the Calgary region representative on the Alberta 4-H Council, and many other things in supporting 4-H. Excuse me, supporting 4-H. In the current council term, I've served on the Agricultural Service Board, Subdivision and Appeal Board, Municipal Planning Commission, 2 years each, the County Long Range Infrastructure Plan Committee, Governance Committee, the Intermunicipal Collaboration Committees for Carstairs and Didsbury, the Olds Library Board, the Parkland Library Board, and the Mountain View Seniors Housing Board, and I chair the Audit Committee. As council, we made revisions and updates to our municipal development plan, land use bylaw, and signed intermunicipal development plans with all the towns in the village within the county. And the South Carstairs area structure plan was adopted. So with all my past experience before council and working with this outstanding council that we've had for the past 4 years, I feel that with your support for my re-election, I can be a voice for agriculture producers across the county, as well as to ensure that the county is effectively maintaining and repairing our road network and our bridges, doing this in as streamlined and an efficient a manner as possible while keeping to a strict budget in these tight times. So thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Next, I would ask David.
Hello, I'm David Doyle, born and raised in Olds, Alberta. My grandfather settled here in the 40s. My parents, or my dad is also from the area, and currently my family farms just northwest of Olds. I'm 41 years old. I've had a vast experience starting at a young age. I worked with my family's business, running equipment, doing repairs and maintenance. Got into doing office work and helping to manage projects with Nutta Construction. So with that came a vast experience working with in the oil and gas industry, building leases. We also did a number of reclamations, remediations. We also worked with a lot of different municipalities on road construction and also doing repairs and maintenance on different roads and some different techniques. And then also we spent a number of years working with the County of Ponoka, for instance, on rebuilding a lot of their county roads. In my past, I've been a volunteer with the Olds Institute. I sat on a business retention and expansion committee. I also worked with Olds College. I sat on a number of advisory boards for them. I was one of the founding, or I guess helped found the heavy equipment operator program that they have at Olds College now. And also an alumni. I graduated with, or not graduated, I guess. I got an apprenticeship of heavy equipment technician from Olds College. My past as well, I believe it was 2010 to 2013. I had the pleasure of being the chair of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee for the County of Mountain View, which gave me a little bit of a broader range. Economics has always been an interest of mine, so is development. And most recently, I've spent the last 5 years as a realtor within the Olds area, specializing in acreages and farm sales. That's given me a unique perspective on land use policies, what the market demands are like, and agricultural challenges such as land prices and potential there. I feel like one thing that I really want to focus on if elected is in continuation and building on the current business parks that we have in the community or within the county. I feel there's a pretty large opportunity that's being missed there by those business parks not being filled. And that, oil and gas revenue has been depleting considerably over the last number of years, and I think it's going to continue to deplete. So we need to start thinking a little bit more forward about creating new revenue sources for the county without impacting agricultural producers or continuing to impact residential people within the county. So I'm looking forward to the question, and thank you so much for setting this up, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Next, Jennifer.
Turn my mic on. Good evening, and thank you, Mountain View County, for hosting this, the staff that working late to make this happen, and to the fellow candidates. It's great to meet you in person if I haven't already met with you. And Ed, we worked together at Olds College. You taught me, and we worked together. Forgot about that. My name is Jennifer Lutz. My maiden name was James. I was raised on a family farm in Balzac, and I've always had a passion for agriculture. I've lived in Mountain View for the last 30 years with my husband, Brad, and we've raised our family on our 6th generation farm. 7th, if you count my grandson that works really hard at the farm too, but he's 11. We have a blended family of 2 sons and 2 daughters, and we are blessed with 4 wonderful grandchildren. 3 of them work in the oil and gas industry, and our oldest son, Mark, is now farming full-time with Brad and other family members. And we hope that some of our other kids will come back to the farm too. Our farm produces cereal and oilseed crops, and we run a cow-calf operation. I've been the off-farm income. I think every good farm needs one of those. And for years, talking about 52, I'm 52 years old, and it looks like I've had a lot of jobs, but I guess it's just because I'm older. I was executive director for Sundry Petroleum Operators Group, which was an organization that really focused on finding common ground and working relationships with energy development. So helping people. Some of you might remember me from the UFA. I did a bit of door knocking, and it's amazing how many people did remember me from UFA Farm Store. I used to sell bins and chemicals and all the parts and fun stuff with farming. After SPOG, I joined the Alberta Energy Regulator, helping people with energy development, and I became director of stakeholder and government relations and had a team of about 25 people across the province. Mitigating oil and gas development, oil sands, coal, you name it. We tried to help people work through those issues. Recently, I joined for 5 years, I was with the town of Olds. I did resign as of October 18th because I didn't feel I could be working with the town and represent the county adequately. So with the town, I was emergency management deputy director and in community services. So I believe my municipal agriculture, oil and gas experience will be very helpful to county ratepayers. I've worked with the Chamber of Commerce, Rural Crime Watch, Citizens on Patrol, the Olds Policing Committee, and I'm a Kiwanis member and active 4-H volunteer, and I'm currently president for the Olds Curling Club. I hope I can earn your vote. I want to reinforce the importance of working together with other municipalities. I want to use my work experience to solve real problems and build on all this county has to offer while honoring what's been done in the past. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. And finally, Alex Hogarth.
Thank you for hosting us tonight here at this candidates forum. I by far lack much of the experience that the former candidates have expressed, but I feel like what I lack in experience, I make up for in passion. My name is Alex Hogarth. I was born and raised in the town of Olds. After a few years away, my husband and I saw the opportunity to move back. We had some family land that we felt if we didn't come back, our kids would lose that connection to the land. So we, not being farmers, not having farming in our genes, though it is in our roots, we wanted to come back and instill that sense of community and agriculture in our kids and the importance of what agriculture provides to our future generations. I am honored to be raising my kids here and believe this county can be a place for our future generations who also want to raise their own families. We have worked with the county over the last few years to set up our small business. We have a small craft malting house or shop, and we are proud to be supporters of our local farmers and agriculture in that business. I believe there's great potential for many more local businesses to choose the county as their place to call home. As a county councillor, I would love to be a part of encouraging economic growth within our county. This small business, our craft malt house, was actually what spurred the idea that brought me here tonight. And I hope that we can see many more adding to our tax base within the next few years. My career history has been in healthcare. For 15 years, I have been an X-ray tech. I've worked the front lines in rural hospitals as well as the Red Deer Hospital. I have seen it all, from car crashes to the farmer who has had that accident, right? I've seen our communities in distress, and I feel we need to protect our communities by working with our towns to ensure that these municipal services stay here. Healthcare is important even as a county, we need to consider our healthcare. We lose those in small towns where we lose our small towns. So I think my history in healthcare is valuable in protecting our local communities and our county in advocating for that to stay. With my history in healthcare, I have learned the importance of positive communication and collaboration, and I'm out of time. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, to have us here.
Thank you. Okay, now we will enter round 2 of our forum tonight. And that consists of questions, and I will we'll start with, actually Dwayne was drawn to start with the first question. And we'll then go across the table and we'll then follow in order. So for the second question, I'll start with Ed. The third question, we'll start with David, and we'll just go around in that direction, and everyone will have an opportunity. And we try to limit our answers to 2 minutes. But he'll cut off your microphone when 2 minutes is up. So he's quite determined about that. So with that, Dwayne, I'm going to ask you the first question. Provided that healthcare is a provincial responsibility, yet the COVID-19 pandemic has affected residents and businesses greatly within MVC, what role do you think the municipality has to play in response to the pandemic, support of provincial mandates, and the implementation of restrictions placed by the province?
Well, thank you for that question. Fortunately or unfortunately, Mountain View County does not have a lot of public facilities that we have to man, open, close, run restrictions on. So the restrictions primarily extend to the office here and our employees that have to wear masks or when they're in confined groups and so on. The real onus is on our urbans there, where they have their public use facilities and other things that have to be open or closed, or whether we have to go with a passport mandate or the verification and so on and so forth. The province is going to lay out and set out the rules and what we have to follow. And unfortunately, as a small, mostly rural municipality, we can't really jostle around within that rule there. And we just have to toe the line until hopefully the pandemic begins to slow down and we can move beyond that, we did provide, we did have a program there. We provided some support for some of the businesses in the county specifically. And that had some uptake there, and we provided some other stuff for some other funding streams for community halls and stuff that have been a bit unable to be open or used there at times through the pandemic. So we have done some programs, and I guess we'll just have to see if this pandemic stretches on, what resources we can pull together to try to aid some of these community groups or other things like that. But presently we haven't talked about that again. So.
Okay, thank you. Ed.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. It's kind of a difficult question since most of this is provincial jurisdiction. And so I don't think the county has a lot of leverage to or tools to work with, except working with some of the community facilities and making sure that any event in those facilities are operated in a safe manner. So being a provincial jurisdiction, I don't think there's a lot we can do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. David.
Yeah, the healthcare is mandated by the Alberta government, and therefore I think it would be prudent for the municipality to do what they can to follow the guidelines that are set out by the province and Dr. Hinshaw. I think that what we can do is, as a municipality, offer support to the local municipalities in encouraging them to also follow the rules. I think that Dwayne made a great point about community centers and community halls. There's lots of them throughout the municipalities or throughout the county, and they've lost a major revenue stream over the last number of years. So I could see where there may be a need or demand of council at some point to offer a little bit of financial support, or maybe potentially a tax break or something like that, just to help keep their doors open. Because when this is all done, I think the demand and need for community and engagement is going to be stronger than ever, and we'll need those rec centers available for the people. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Alex.
As previously said, yes, the provincial regulations or restrictions are set at a provincial level. So I think as a council, the asset we could provide is assisting in clarity in those, ensuring that the understanding of those regulations, because as we've learned, it's very up to interpretation. Everyone, with us being in the brewing industry, it was a daily flip-flop of what was understood from them. So I think as council, working with those community partners to ensure that our residents are still having access to facilities at the level that the province is outlining would be something we could assist in, communicating with our provincial members of those committees to get clarity for our residents and our businesses, as well as there are programs that the province has lined up for small businesses to take advantage of free rapid tests to ensure that their businesses are running safely. So if there was any local small businesses in the county, assisting them finding the access to those programs, I think would be really beneficial for our businesses to stay safe and hopefully come out of this pandemic on the right side of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Like everybody else, pretty tired of COVID. So municipalities are the local authority for emergency management. So under the emergency or the local authority municipal emergency management regulation, it is up to municipalities to implement the restrictions. So be that through municipal enforcement or providing support through emergency social services. The municipality is responsible for emergency management planning, prevention, assessing the risks, and to make sure that the right measures are in place to support our community when there is any type of emergency, including a pandemic. So we are very fortunate as a municipality to have strong emergency management in the area. I think the focus does have to be on recovery. how to support mental health resources and those emergency social services for people that are struggling right now. I think just on top of a lot of things with the drought that we had, and we got hit 3 times with hail. Just in our county itself, there's been a lot of stresses, including the pandemic. So the implementing of restrictions, yes, we follow the provincial public guidelines, and thankfully, because we're more rural, we haven't had to do extra additional measures to make sure we could implement those restrictions. So that's fortunate, unlike some of the urban areas. So my main message on COVID, I had to look at COVID every single day for the last 20 months. And again, just be kind to each other, realize that we're all doing the best that we can. And I don't envy anybody that's frontline worker or even elected politicians having to wade their way through this situation. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Ed. And given the growing trends towards the construction of renewable energy infrastructure, such as solar panels and wind turbines, and the subsequent use of these energy sources compared to traditional energy sources, what is your position on the use of agricultural lands to support this infrastructure?
Thank you very much. That's a very important question as well. We all know that the oil industry is revenues are coming down and the green energies are coming up with wind turbines and solar panels. I've had the very fortunate experience of traveling the world and seeing some of these solar panel operations where they've taken up very valuable land, caused all sorts of weed control issues, and taken productive land out of production that is agriculture. And I think that is wrong. I think if we have areas of land that are non-productive, that are able to sustain or put up these wind turbines and solar panels primarily more, wind turbines you can farm around them. But the big issue is the taking productive land out of production. The second issue is that down in California, there's some of these solar farms that are coming to the end of fruition, and somebody's going to have to clean these up. Wind turbines are being abandoned, and there's no recycling of some of the material. So I think we have to really be careful about thinking long-term to have some sort of fund in place for the decommissioning of these facilities. I'm not against green energy, but I think we have to be very careful about using our land appropriately and putting the protective measures in to protect us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Great question. My personal opinion on it is that if there's areas within the municipality or within the county that are considered non-productive, such as a gravel pit that had limited soil on and has been reclaimed, that would be an ideal spot for something like a solar farm of some sort. I do think that we want to be cautious because, like anything with technology, these solar panels, these wind farms, they adapt, they change, and there might become more efficient methods and ways of doing that. So I would be hesitant to limit any use of good agricultural land for those purposes. And like Ed said, the end game with a lot of these, we've even seen down in, I believe it's in Brooks or maybe it's, I think it's Brooks, where they have their one solar farm that's they built on the edge of town that's already being decommissioned because it's not generating the amount of energy that they were expecting out of it. So I think it's something that we just need to proceed with caution unless it's in an appropriate area that suits it. So that's my feelings on that.
Thank you. Alex.
We actually have just installed our solar panels on our home. So obviously we are very in favor of green energy in the correct circumstances. As far as taking up valuable agricultural land, I agree with my former candidate or my former candidates that the agriculture land in the county is invaluable, and once you've lost it to something like that, you don't get it back. But on the flip side, there is, and I would love to see explored the potential of agrivoltaics, which is creating a symbiotic relationship with green energy and farmland. Primarily pasture land is, I believe, where they've been trialing it. The use of solar panels in those circumstances and have been proven to increase plant growth, creates, protects it from wind. There's just being open to the idea is definitely something that I am pro, because obviously it is beneficial going into the future to look into the different energy aspects that we have available to us. As these technologies get better and are explored more, we're seeing more efficiencies, and as with everything, recycling is an issue. Cleaning up sites like that are an issue. We're seeing that with our oil and gas sites right now. So I don't think that's a new issue. It's just going to be a different issue. So, but I am open to exploring that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Totally agree with what's been said. We have to learn from what we learned with oil and gas on reclamation and remediation and cleanup. And something that hasn't been said is surface rights. So oil and gas, you have very little right, at least with solar and wind. Landowners have more of a say on what happens to their property. So that's something we can't lose. I think governments become very dependent on energy revenues, and that's dangerous for surface rights. So I think if projects go ahead, that proper public consultation happens, so you're not infringing on somebody else's rights. And just to restate, food production, I have it all over everything that I have put out. We can't lose farmland to and lose food production. I think that's critical in our area, and I strongly believe in that. So I'm going to stop a bit early because these guys have said it. Clean up, saving agriculture land. And I'll just add the property rights and making sure you're not infringing on anybody else's enjoyment and desire of their own properties.
Okay, thank you. Dwayne.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. In terms of agriculture land, we're blessed in Mountain View County to have some very excellent productive land, and I would not like to see that turned or converted into stations for solar farms or wind farms. That isn't really a compatible land use, and we've been striving through this past term to make sure that we can preserve some ag land. But that being said, we do have the McDougall Flats gravel pit, which has been which is depleted, and we do have an expression and interest out to look at putting a solar installation on that land. So, you know, there are other sites, other gravel pits and other areas that need to be reclaimed or in the process of reclamation, so on and so forth, that may lend themselves to a larger, not a massive, obviously, solar project, but a solar project of some scale. And the county has held workshops, which of course have always landed on the wrong day for me to attend, but they do have had solar workshops for on farm or on residential parcels there, so you can be grid tie-in or totally standalone. So I believe there is a place for it, but I wouldn't want to be taking quarters or half sections out to just turn into solar or wind. So
Thank you. We'll go on to our next question, and we'll start with Dave. Aggregate extraction is one of the more contentious industries located in the county due to their impact on adjacent land uses and intensive operations. Quite often, these locations are in proximity to residential users, thereby enhancing the challenges that council faces when approving the appropriate land uses. What is your position on aggregate extraction?
So aggregate extraction, I understand it can be a very contentious issue, but it's a necessary evil. When we look at the majority of our infrastructure within the county as it is standing now, whether you're putting down gravel for county roads, whether you're generating asphalt to put down on pavement for highways, it all requires some form of aggregate of one way or another. And unfortunately, it's similar to oil and gas and the fact that there's a limited supply available within the county. So I think it's something that there are ways that it can be extracted to limit the impacts on the local landowners. But at the same time, I mean, I think in terms of you've got a feedlot operation and somebody moves into an acreage 6 miles down the road, and then 5 years later, they're complaining about the smell and the displeasure with having this operation close to them. So the aggregate sources, a lot of times there's other open mine gravel pits within the area, and I would have to lean on the side of the producer, just from the fact that that source has always been there, and it's like I say, it's an unnecessary evil. It's required for the long-term prosperity of the county, unless we can come up with some other form of way to stabilize the road bases that we have within the municipality. So,
Thank you, Alex.
I think no matter where you are in the county, there's always going to be the not in my backyard argument. But as residents of the county and as a council, I think we need to balance that with what is going to be for the greater good of our county. Obviously, if we do not have any aggregate production within our borders, we are going to be outsourcing that to outside communities, and that is going to look at an increased cost to our taxpayers. As like Dave said, we have a lot of roads, and that's one of our biggest costs is road maintenance. So as soon as we obviously in the future we could need to, but where we have access to that local source of gravel, bringing in the economic growth aspect of that, creating jobs, and balancing that with also people's right to enjoy their property, ensuring that those companies that are extracting gravel are considerate of their neighbors, as we all should be. I think county can strike a balance with those businesses in gravel production, as well as balancing our responsibility to maintain our infrastructure and be fiscally responsible. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hello, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but part of my work was mediation and facilitation. So this might sound like a broken record a bit, but competing land uses is always going to be an issue in rural landscapes. So with aggregate extraction, I think the conversations have to happen and do the best to find some common ground and mutual beneficial solutions. So just having that conversation, does that mean like hours of operation are set to meet residential needs, dust control? Is there anything we can do for aesthetics? So gravel is necessary. I know it's difficult to get, and I know we need it. So, how can you develop property and in on the land base and do it to a way that will minimally impact residents that live nearby? And I think when you do move to a rural area, you have to expect that there's some things that happen in rural areas that, you don't see in urban areas. So I know when I worked with SPOG, I got a complaint once about a bull and a cow breeding, and it was upsetting the children. And it's like, don't move to a rural area if you can't take any rural uses. So, the resources in the rural counties, and it's an important resource to get. So, how do you best and most appropriately do that so that we aren't using extra energy, hauling from way far distances and not being environmentally conscious that way either. So again, like some of our candidates said, it's striking that balance and doing the best you can to mitigate competing land uses.
Thank you. Dwayne.
Yes, thank you. Yes, gravel is a very challenging topic, and as council, we have struggled with it and debated it many, many times. The reality is that gravel does not exist everywhere. We can't just put a shovel in the ground and find gravel. And unfortunately, on the eastern side of the county, we've exhausted most of the pits. The quality is low. Then you end up with resident complaints with high clay contents. The good gravel is to the west. And it's a lovely place to live out west, but there isn't a lot of overburden and the gravel is there. It's high quality. We need it for municipal purposes. We in the last couple of years, we've been transporting gravel from the west to the east to stockpile for use the next season. So I realize it can be a very touchy subject, but gravel pits don't last forever. An area can be mined and then reclaimed, and it can have a new land. It can be returned back to agriculture, or it can become a new use as a park, or like the solar thing that I just referenced. But that being said, while the gravel pit is being used, we have been trying to come up with a development permit and more conditions and stricter conditions. And I know that we can do things better than they have been done. You know, the processing and they can use water their road, internal roads, water when they're crushing. You know, I would love to, if there's some way that they could get away from the backup beepers when the machines are backing up, if it could go to a flashing light to cut down on some noise. The use of berms, trees, there's other options out there that haven't been used in the past with some of the existing operators, and hopefully as we move forward, we can make them better neighbors there, and so that everybody can get along and we can make use of the resorts.
Thank you. And finally, Ed.
Yeah, thank you. Most of the candidates here have covered the topics, but I think it comes down to the simple thing that we need a balance. We need the aggregate for development and going forward. And I think it comes down to dust, safety, and noise. And I think some of the guidelines that may be put in place in the development permit may put restrictions on number of hours and watering of the roads. But I think the biggest thing is that once we get those in place, we need to have enforcement to make sure that these facilities live within those guidelines. And I think some of these operations, they get the permit and there isn't the enforcement and the teeth to bite to back them up. So I think it's very critical that we work collaboratively and communicate with the neighbors, and good communications ahead of time, setting up guidelines and then enforcing those guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next question, and Alex gets to start off this one. In times of competing interests from residents, decreased funding received from the province, and increased downloading onto municipalities, efficient use of tax dollars is key to successful municipal operations. What is your plan to safeguard the tax dollars collected from county residents?
Start with the hard one. I think once again, it comes down to looking at where our revenue is going to be, our expected revenues, what our anticipated projects and needs in the communities are, community, county, and then balancing that with respect for our taxpayer dollars. So I think a great way to go about safeguarding our tax revenues is to encourage that economic growth and that tax-based growth, and showing the possibilities our county has with growing our population, where so many more people are working from home. Can we take some of those urban dwellers and bring them into our communities and grow that tax base that way? Whereas reducing services is going to not attract that same population. We reduce our services, now our county is not as desirable to be within. So it's definitely going to be a challenge going forward with the decreased funding, increased cost that we see coming down the road. And I would look forward to working with our councillor, our communities, to make sure that services are maintained, but tax dollars respected. Thanks.
Okay, Jennifer.
Pretty passionate about this because we have an extremely high standard of living in Alberta, and a lot of economic challenges right now. So with budgeting, I think some of the key factors is listen to the people and engage them effectively. In my former role, we did a budget survey and it always came down to key items, protective services, operations. But we would tend to go on and spending money on things that maybe weren't as high a priority. So I think asking the budget questions is really important. Are services being delivered where citizens need them the most? And are we getting good value? And that would be running it like if you run your own farm or your own business. And a pet peeve of mine is, contracting expensive reports and not using them, utilizing staff to their full capacity. I think we really got to change the way we do business because we can't have that standard that maybe it's excess too. Not just standard, but can we do things more efficiently and cheaper? And working in a municipality for 5 years, I think that's very doable and seen lots of examples where I think that could happen. Measurement, ensuring targets for quality and costs are benchmarks against other organizations and standards. So really holding administration accountable to where they're spending money, reporting and measuring and reporting regularly to ensure transparency. And I think just being in tune, and I'm sorry as a ratepayer, I'll be the first one with a negative comment, but Mountain View Council approving a raise for councillors and a raise for salary in these times. I was personally offended by that. And I think it's out of tune and out of touch with our current reality. So if I'm on council, being that fiscally prudent person and thinking outside the box to do things more effectively will be something I will look forward to doing.
Thank you. Dwayne.
Yes, thank you. So this council term, we went through two different provincial governments with very different mindsets, the pandemic, economic collapse, so to speak, at times. And through it all, we've been able to maintain our mill rate the same with only the marginal increase to offset the provincial police cost that was downloaded to us. We've put off through the long range planning, we've pushed off a lot of the major road network projects that we had plans for shovel ready that have been pushed out way beyond in time. We have streamlined the operations. There have been people that have moved on to other positions and their positions have not been filled. We're going to have some retirements coming up of some longstanding employees that are going to move off, and then we'll have some new people coming in at a lower pay grade. So we managed to do that. We take as much advantage through RMA and any other advantage we can to pre-purchase or get things at a group discount and be as responsible as we can. We try to get our projects for the next year done in mind early and get those out for the earliest tender possible, so that we can achieve the best costs. As term for council, the previous council had recommended a 10% pay increase for this council term. We decided to break that up into 2.5% over each year for 4 years. The last 2 years, we did not take any pay increase at all. And there was only just under 1% or right around 1% cost of living adjustment for all employees. And we have a recommendation for the new council to look at an increase in pay, but the new council can accept or deny that. So.
Thank you, Ed.
I think going to use a few sayings here. I think we have to learn to do more with less. And the other thing too, I agree with Jennifer, if you can't measure it, you cannot manage it. I do know some situations in the county in the previous tenure that there were some major expenditures that could have been done a lot cheaper. And I think that we need to challenge our administration to look at encourage our administration of looking at every way to save money in every possible way. I think that we can always find reductions. I went through the college when they had the big the Klein 21% cut, and they cut 21% of the budget. And they effectively found they could do it and do the same. So I think that we need to bite the bullet hard. I think we need to look at all of our expenses and be able to justify that. I'm a little concerned if we're going to push off planned replacement or upgrade of our infrastructure, because if you just stay the same, we're going to be going backwards, and ultimately we're going to pay the price. So you may save $1 now, but it's going to cost you 10 down the road. So I think it's very important that we look at all of our expenses and treat them very, very frugally, as Jennifer said, as if you're running your own farm or your business. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Jennifer.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I get to
sorry.
go.
I'm sorry. I did that last round too. I thought I got to the last
No,
one.
I wanted
It must
to-
be time to go to the next one. Sorry, Dave.
So, great question. As a few people have stated, that definitely we need to find ways of being more effective and more efficient. Yeah, we need to have prudent measurements in place. I've always been a fan of smaller government and try and do more with less. And I feel that a lot of times, if we get out of people's way and allow them to make the decisions and do the things they need to do, things can get done a lot more effectively, because most people that are in the roles they are have a desire to do good. On a different note, though, the problem that we're facing isn't something that's going to go away. I think it's something that's going to continue to hamper the community, and there's only going to be so many dollars that you can cut. And we really do need to invest in, and it's really difficult to invest in anything when you're looking to save money, but we need to invest in new opportunities to encourage business development in a meaningful way, and or look at the potential tax revenues that we're missing out on. I think that there's a number of businesses that, people buy land, they build a house on a farm, they build a shop, and they run a operation out of there that it's substantial, that if it was in a business park, they'd be taxed at a considerably higher rate than what they are now. And I don't want to discourage that kind of development, but I do think that there needs to be a bit of a balance. So I would encourage the county and the ratepayers, or the tax people, sorry for the lack of term, to look into where the potential revenues are being missed at right now. And I know that's a touchy subject, but I think it's an important one.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to Jennifer for our next question. The county maintains intermunicipal collaboration agreements with 10 municipalities as required by the Municipal Government Act, 5 rural and 5 urban. How do you feel you would be able to strike the balance between what is best for the county and its ratepayers compared to what is best for the county's relationship with its municipal partners?
So ultimately, you're representing the county, but really we're one community. And if the community thrives, everybody thrives, the urban and rural. So part of the MGA, the Municipal Government Act, is to work collaboratively with your neighbors to provide services and to improve the quality of life. So I've worked with every municipality in our county for years. I've worked with municipalities in other areas as well. And I really feel I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to relationships. I'm a relationship builder. That's what I specialize in. And it's finding those common ground win-win. So yeah, you're always going to stick up for your county and the people who elect you. That's really important. But extending a hand out to neighboring municipalities to make it better for everybody. So seniors housing, when you're in the county, ultimately seniors housing in Olds or your closest urban areas, important. Libraries are important, recreation facilities are important. So it's building those relationships. And truthfully, one reason that I stepped down from the town and put my name forward to the county is I think that relationship could be improved. The fire services and having less service in my division than in other divisions because the two couldn't collaborate and come to some agreements. Frightens me. We've had fire out in our area. I've relied on fire, and I think that that's a basic service that people expect, and they expect good service. Going from those budget surveys again, protective services is always imperative. So the fact that Division 7 currently won't get medical service from the Olds Fire Department and just has to rely on EMS right now, as a ratepayer, I would like to work on that and get back to the table, even if it takes mediation or arbitration to make sure that those parties are working effectively together. It's just crucial. There's just too much that there's too many codependencies not to have effective relationships. So I hope that I have an opportunity to help out in that area.
Thank you. Dwayne.
Having sat on the ICC committees for Carstairs and Didsbury through the towns, the ICCs with our other rural municipalities was not as big a deal because we don't have as much shared services there. A lot of joint mutual aid stuff for fire and so on and so forth. But the process was challenging because Mountain View County, we do not have hockey rinks or swimming pools or curling rinks per se, or other things like that. So we rely on the towns that have those features in there. But when you add up FCC, fire operating, library services, recreational funding, and some other capital, we contribute $4.2 million to the communities. So that's a fair chunk of change there that goes out for them to operate and look after those facilities on our behalf. Like we're not in partnership with them, they own them. We're just putting money in there so that our residents can go to those communities and make use of those facilities. So there's always going to be issues there that are more challenging than others on some things. The fire discussion will come back around, and we'll work on that when time comes. But we're trying to be, so that all residents have equal opportunity, equal access to things, and at the same kind of a cost, right? We can't have one area at a substantially higher cost for the same level of service as somewhere else. So, but just so that people are aware that we're ended up, we're 9% of our municipal budget there that goes into recreation culture. So I don't think we're on the shy side of things. We've stepped up, and we're really supportive of a lot of things.
Thank you. Ed.
Yeah, I think it's very important that communication is number one with our neighbors, be it the villages and towns or the counties that are with us. And we need to collaboratively communicate and show a win for them, win for our constituents, and a win for our municipality. I think that we need to work with them on many other issues too, is possibly if we want to look at developing and expanding tourism. A lot of the facilities in those that the tourists will be using will be in the town. I also think there's some things that we may be missing out on, and I don't know if the towns at all participate or contribute to the operation of the airports that we have that are used both by a local or rural and city people. So I think there may be some opportunity to discuss with them the benefits of having that airport that they're getting to offset some of those other facilities, such as the skating rinks and the curling rinks and swimming pools. But I think dialogue is really, really essential. And fair dialogue and working together and communicating together. So thank you.
Thank you. David.
So yes, just something that Dwayne had pointed out with the $4.5 million infrastructure or amount of money that we pay every year into that. It is a fair sum of money, and at the same time, as county residents, a lot of those facilities are pay to play, right? So if you're going to go to the skating rink, you're going to pay. If you're going to go to the swimming pool, you're paying. If you're using a lot of the facilities, the library, just like anyone in the town of Olds, you're paying for your memberships and that end of things. So I think that there needs to be, some stronger negotiations potentially if possible. I also am on the same page as Jennifer with the fire. When I read that in the paper, I was quite astonished that the town was being as difficult as they have been on trying to come to some kind of terms on that. And I myself don't agree with that, especially in the drought conditions that we've been facing lately. But my last point is, I think working with intermunicipal development and regional economic development are hand in hand. That local towns and the municipalities around us, they've got access to, things like water and sewer that we could work off of or utilize. Any business that's going to be looking to move into the area is going to require a workforce. In the rural remote areas, you're not going to have the same number of people. So by being able to have those strong relationships and work collaboratively together would be, create a win-win scenario. And so I think it's something where we need to work very closely with our regional partners to ensure that, we're on the same page. I get that times we're going to be competing for some of those businesses, but there's certain industries and certain businesses, especially secondary and tertiary ag industry business that, are better suited in a county setting versus an industrial park within the town of Olds or other areas like that. So that, I guess, is my thoughts on that is we need to work together and again, have more of a collaborative approach working with our regional partners.
Thank you. Finally, Alex.
Yeah, everyone made really great points. I think something that wasn't brought up is that, especially looking at what's happening locally in the town of Olds, is conflict doesn't benefit anyone. Obviously, the county, we need our services, and I think being able to work with the municipalities to ensure that those are maintained at a appropriate level, ensuring that those operations, as the county doesn't have any control in how they are ran, we are providing the funding and expecting that they're appropriately using that, I think. And I'm sure the county does do their due diligence in ensuring that is appropriate use of their funding, but efficiencies maybe could be found in those municipalities that would create a closer balance into agreement of the use of our funds. And yeah, as Dave said, I think there's great benefit to the municipalities having those services and our county having our residents have that available to them. And like I've said before, a desirable place to live increases our tax base as we have more people wanting to live in our county and have access to those services in those communities they we're surrounding. So yeah, I just think we need to work closer and better with our towns to serve our residents. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I think Dwayne will start the next question. The ability for a municipality to provide high quality services is directly tied to taxation received from businesses and residents. Councillors have the flexibility to maintain services with small incremental tax increases, increasing services resulting in higher taxation, or decreasing services resulting in decreased taxation. What is your position?
Thank you for that question. It's always a delicate balance when we come to budget time. We've already began working on the 2022 budget. One thing that we have to remember is that all property taxes do not come from residences or farmland. Linear makes up a large portion of our taxes, oil and gas, transmission lines, rail lines and stuff. So, and that is always at risk of changing, fluctuating year to year, fluctuating on provincial mandates. They come out now, they have a zero tax rating on new wells for 3 years. And then you can start taxing them, and assessments change and the rules change. But when it comes down to services versus taxes, that we've been trying to run the finest line we can between very minuscule or no increases in taxes and finding the efficiencies that we can to maintain our level of service. Now, that being said, one strategy that we put into play now is the re-graveling program was a 1 and 3 on gravel roads. And we're going to try 1 and 4 and see what the next council will see what the effect of that is. But to try to save some money on that transported gravel from the east to the west and the cost of applying it, and we'll see how that goes. And in regards to infrastructure things, the major upgrades from a chip seal to an asphalt surface, we've been working at base stabilization or rip and chip, whatever term you like to use, where we mill it up with a giant rototiller, add more gravel, leave it sit over the winter, and then come back in and chip it. We've had good success in segments across the county, and that is a way more cost effective to bring the level of service back to where it would have been 10, 20 years ago. Repair that surface and get a good running surface for 7 to 10 years out of that, and not put out the $1 million plus per kilometer. Like I think we're approximately 130, 140,000 a kilometer to do this rip and chip. So I think, we're trying hard. So.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, it is a delicate balance between cutting service or increasing taxes, especially in this time of after the COVID period that has put us backwards, and this drought that has affected our rural community. So tax increases are a very sensitive issue right now that I don't think is very palatable. Cutting services is also another area that I don't think is going to go very well. So I think we have to find a balance of trying to find ways that we can maintain the services with our existing funding. And I think we just need to dig deep and look at ways. In this past week when I've been out, some of the areas I got, especially in the East Country, they were saying, we really could use another snowplow in the wintertime, but they overgrade our road. They're down here every week here, and they're almost grading too much. So I think we need to look at things like that. That I know it's a minor thing, but if you can reduce the grading, to every 2 weeks or whatever, if it's not necessary, I think we need to do that. So I think there's areas that we can look at and do it. But we are going to have to face the reality that sometime these costs are going to increase, and we're just going to have to find a way to get more diverse revenue, more diverse activities, more businesses, and encourage them to come here. And that's how I think we got to get out of this, is by growth.
Thanks, Ed. David?
So as the other two gentlemen have said before me, it is a delicate balance, and I do agree with that. But again, I think there are some things I know in my previous experience with, we did some projects in the county with Tasman, for instance, where we would do what's called a shoulder pull. Over the years, gravel gets spread out into the ditch lines, and what we can do is disc the shoulders, disc the ditch, and you pull the loose, lost gravel out of those ditch lines, pull them back onto the surface, and regrade and reprep the road. So there's another potential efficiency that we can find rather than hauling gravel or aggregate out of the West Country into the East Country. But I do think that, and I know a number of residents I've talked to have said that it would be okay with minor or small increases in taxes as long as they saw some form of benefit out of it. And I think that we need to invest in economic development. As it was stated by Dwayne, there is a large chunk of revenues that come from oil and gas. We've got a gas plant just south of Olds that might have a lifespan of another 20 years. And then how do we recoup that tax loss? So we've got basically 15 or 20 years that we've got where we can invest to help and create a new stabilized revenue source for the county. And that's going to require potentially having some increases without a lot of nominal services. And I think it's going to be a tough pill to swallow, but it's a necessary evil, or we're going to be having to deal with severe cuts in 20 or 30 years from now.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I do not agree with decrease in service. Again, if we want to continue to grow our economy in the county, decrease in services is going to totally go the opposite of that. As far as increasing taxes to maintain those services, I think as if anyone has built anything in the last year and a half, you realize that inflation isn't running at zero. So I think and just any common sense is going to know that to maintain our services, even just with inflation costs, we're going to have to look at different ways of being more efficient, or maybe nominal increases. But again, looking at those efficiencies, in my role in healthcare, actually, that's one of my passions is working with efficiencies. I was able to work with a team at the Red Deer Hospital, and our small project alone saved the Red Deer Hospital $100,000 a year just in this small project where we found efficiencies. Currently, my day-to-day job is finding efficiencies to save our healthcare dollars and make everyone's jobs easier and more streamlined. So I think that being one of my passions, I would love to hear the different ideas, our ratepayers, our administration, everyone, because I think somebody said it earlier, when you give somebody who has a job something that they are passionate about and let them run with it, it's amazing what they can come back with for ideas and ways to allow this county to grow and become economically diverse. And yeah, I think it's a challenge that I think our county is up to, and I look forward to seeing what the next council does with it.
Finally, Jennifer.
So municipal government, it's the only level of government that must balance the budget. And the province is offloading far more to municipalities. And I think we have a real challenge on our hands. And I'm very happy to see smart people at the table to deal with these challenges. Inflation, like Alex said, is crazy. And I don't think people can afford more taxes. So I think the way out of this is finding efficiencies, leveraging regional efficiencies. So I would recommend a joint tourism strategy instead of a mountain view strategy and an old strategy. Actually do a joint regional one, joint regional economic development strategy, which is already in place. Like David said, investing in economic development. I see lots of ways to reduce red tape and make the regulatory burden less to encourage business to come to Mountain View County. And we need to ensure the services that are needed to run businesses are here. So power, sewer, water, and invest in diversification. We still do have, we're still the third highest oil producer in the world. And there's still lots in the ground, but to be reliant on oil and gas going forward, we would not have learned from our mistakes. So, oil and gas is bust boom. I believe we've become a bit of a petro state where we've relied on oil and gas so heavily that we haven't diversified, and let's not ever do that again, and make sure that we diversify so we don't have to rely on one industry so much. Yeah, so not for raising taxes. I don't think it's the time to do it. One thing that will get me in trouble is farmland. When we pay our farm taxes per quarter section, when a quarter is selling for $1 million plus and our tax bill is $300, not 100% sure if there's any way to make that more fair. Probably very unpopular. But if I were to pay more for farmland and I wasn't seeing the value in those tax dollars, that would make me angry. So if we are going to increase any taxes to make it offset some of the revenue that we're losing from linear tax and the province offloading more responsibilities, people better see the value for it.
Thank you. Next, I guess we'll start with Dave. No, Ed. We'll start with Ed. So as recently noted in the Alberta, a group in the county has suggested that they should be removed or should remove themselves from the county. This has also been previously contemplated by other areas of the county. What would you try to do to address issues raised by a local community that is looking to remove itself from county jurisdiction?
Well, I think one of the first things that we need to do as a county, we need to go to this group and show them the benefit or what they are receiving for benefits, and that if they were to go on their own, what the cost implications would that be to replace that? I guess find out exactly why they want to leave, what are the reasons, and try to address those reasons and correct it. Without a lot more detail, it's hard to say a lot more, but I would say communication, open communication, honest and fair communication, and have a discussion.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
So I would do my best to reach out to the organizations or the groups that feel this way, and sit down and have a little bit of face-to-face interaction and understand where they're coming from and why they feel that they aren't part of, or they don't gain enough value from the county. Like Ed suggested, education goes a long ways. And in fact, I would actually encourage them to run for council, and they can actually be a part of the change, rather than, sitting back and being an armchair quarterback, because it's really easy to sit from behind your computer or you're at the coffee table at A&W and discuss all the problems and how you're going to fix them all. It's an entirely different position to be at the table and, trying to come up with solutions and way to work together. So I would encourage them to reach out and, or for some kind of mediation to be put in place that would allow us to sit at the table and discuss the challenges that they're facing. Thank you.
Thanks. Alex?
I think with a council of 7 people, each division has the responsibility and to represent their constituents' needs. So I feel like between the other 6 councillors, we also have a responsibility to try to see things from the other side as well. As I've stated, we have a very large county with a very diverse needs. We have agriculture to the east, we have tourism and recreation to the west, and it's totally 2 different populations who are trying to achieve the same thing from a central space such as the council. So communication is something that is really important in those things. Ensuring people are heard. I think more than ever, we realize that empathy is waning in our society. And I think understanding that all people want to be is heard and that they're being respected. And I feel like as a council and as a representative for the constituents, as a councillor, it's our job to make sure that our county is feeling like their needs are being met. With that being said, there is that balance of what are they asking and where do we go from that? I think, again, everyone always thinks it's greener on the other side. So I don't think going at somebody, telling them what they're going to lose is going to get us anywhere, because they've already thought out those things. So yeah, I think mediation and working together as a council to ensure everyone's needs are heard and met, or maybe not met, but at least heard and considered, and not just felt like you've been pushed to the side. So I value strong communication. So thanks.
Thank you. And finally, Jennifer. Nope, not finally, Jennifer. Jennifer next.
Yeah, I wasn't really aware of this situation and read it in the paper, and I thought it was very concerning that there was that level of frustration, and was saddened by that, because there's just enough strife in the world with separate West X and unity in Canada. I thought we had unity in our county, but I think our candidates coined it very well. I think listening and empathy first, trying to really seek to understand and find out where they're at. I don't know if people listen to education so much until they know they've been heard and that you fully understand the situation. And I didn't really realize what was going on in that area. And then just bringing people to the table. I think a lot of issues happen when there's unresolved conflict in any workplace, in any business. And conflict's hard. Nobody loves conflict. I'm pretty good at conflict with other people, but just even in my own life, it's much harder when it's you with the emotion and you being upset. So maybe getting some professional help or outside mediator to bring those parties together. I imagine there's some history there to get them to that point. So, maybe a different approach is needed in that empathetic listening and full understanding would probably be helpful. I hope would be helpful in the situation. I think to run a municipality would be a big undertaking for an area like that. And the education piece on, what it costs and what it takes to run a municipality is fairly important too, because I can't imagine undertaking that task. So I wish them luck and hopefully I'll be at the table to help work through this issue with them.
Thank you. And finally, Dwayne.
Yes, a very timely question. Unfortunately, that, Mountain View County, I don't believe that we want to have any part of our county try to form its own municipality and move away. From my perspective, I was elected from Division 1, Carstairs area, but when you become a councillor, we make a decision as a whole, and the decision is for the betterment of the county. We're not focused on an intersection and a road. We're focused on the betterment of the entire county. And I totally understand and I sympathize and I know the position that these people have down in this area. And I think that was the hope that as we move forward in that area with some of this aggregate development, that we can turn a page with these operators, and the county will be an operator as well, because we have the Sundry Pit area that we need to open up, and we need to do a better job, and the operators need to do a better job to be a better neighbor to get that resource out. And it's unfortunate that the housing development was approved back in the time when there was full knowledge that was such a gravel rich area and that would be needed at some point in time. So I'm hopeful that we can come to the table and that there can be a group put together with the gravel operators and even maybe Sundry Forest Products out there, that they have some noise and odor issues as well in that valley area, that we can come together and have a working group that can keep an eye on things and help smooth things out. But you have to remember, we can't go into old development permits and slap new conditions on things. So like it's all about working together, and everybody might have to give an inch or two to get to some middle ground and satisfy them, but just let them know they're not being ignored.
Thank you. David, what is the biggest issue that you feel is currently facing the county, or an issue that will face the county in the next 4 years? And if elected as a councillor, how would you work to deal with it?
That's a good question. Currently, I think that there needs to be some work with intermunicipal development and strengthening relationships, especially within Division 7 with the town of Olds, and working on getting our services put back. I feel like the long-term, within the next 4 years, it's going to be this continued pressure of the provincial government downloading more expenses on the local municipalities, and continue to try and find ways to be more effective and yet increase revenue sources for maintaining the levels of services that we have. So my goal would be to try and open up those doors of communication, be a bit of a conduit for between the town and the county if possible, and encourage a healthier working relationship, and to work at trying to come to a common agreement in a way that we can build together, that we can both mutually benefit from, and and potentially in the long term turn around and create more revenue sources for the county in the long run.
Thank you. Alex?
So yeah, I think one of our biggest challenges going forward with the county is going to be that decreased MSI funding, as well as the downloaded policing costs, as well as our current economic times and oil and gas revenues, and who knows what the next turn around the corner is going to show up. So I think just that fiscal responsibility and creating a fiscal stability within our county is going to be really important going forward. Like I've mentioned earlier, is I think diversifying our industries in our county and being supportive of like local small business starting in our counties, like such as ours, being able to start on our land, and the county allowing that has really given us an opportunity that we might not have been able to see if we'd had to go into the town or business park. But as our business grows, maybe that's where we go. And if we couldn't start it, we wouldn't get there. So I think supporting that local business, supporting our farming families to find different ways to keep our youth on the farm. Getting into farming now isn't easy. I can't imagine trying to retire and also giving your part of that retirement to your kids right now. So I definitely see within our communities and across the province, there's more demand for those value-added businesses that are just going to add to our community, not only adding to our tax base, but keeping our families in the community, as well as providing more local business for our constituents and residents. So yeah, I think just being innovative and creative is going to be really important in the future to meet that demand of funding, as well as dealing with the lack of funding. Thanks.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Agree with what's been said. Relationships are big. Respecting your tax dollars is big, and making sure that we're doing things efficiently and effectively. Listening to people, making sure that as an elected official that we're working for you, and supporting that sustainable land management. I think we need to offer hope, and that we are a place that people want to be and live and raise their families and be in business. I think we're going to need a lot of innovation, and we need to be very strategic going forward, because the climate has changed. I mean, the political climate with the province and our economic climate. And if you're trying to raise food, you might notice it's been kind of hot this summer. And you know, how do we adapt farming to continue to grow great food for people? So I think the theme is looking at things differently and perhaps doing things differently. Alex said it, like we just got our kids into farming, and how does anybody in youth go into agriculture these days, especially when they have to buy a quarter section to really farm? That's a big one. My daughters run a rent-a-hen business, and they're teaching people where their food comes from. And they're doing real well at it, but they probably don't need a big land base to do that, but they're still adding value, and they're promoting agriculture. So how do we get youth involved in agriculture when we're an agriculture community? So hopeful for the future, and we are innovative. We'll roll up our sleeves and we'll get through these tough times. And we've been a great county, and we'll continue to be a great county through innovation and people like this around the table.
Thank you. Dwayne.
Yes, the biggest issues coming up in the next term is going to be budget. 57% of our budget, it goes to operations right now, and we have to keep an eye on that. You know, we can't expect our tax revenues to go up, and we can't expect our transfers from other levels of government to increase. So we're definitely gonna have to keep an eye on that and try to work harder and work smarter. Next on the list is the infrastructure, which is roads and bridges. And I highlighted that with our RIP and CHIP program versus going to asphalt service. We have 260 plus bridges in the county, and they are on a clock. There is a time when they need to either be majorly repaired or replaced, and there is large dollar figures attached to that. That's going to be coming up in the next horizon. Our ICC agreements some of them are up for renegotiation, and other parts, fire master agreements and so on and so forth. So that is going to consume a fair amount of time if we get into some other challenges like we have with holes there, that's not going to be done quickly. That's going to take some time to work through those. We need to do some review of area structure plans. Obviously, McDougall Flats area, that area structure plan has some age on it, so that needs to be opened up and worked through again with the consultation of the community. Economic development opportunities, we need to keep our eye really open for that. It's been a challenge. We have business parks, we have the airports there that are ready for business to come in, but the economic climate just hasn't been great. The pandemic has not helped at all. So we just need to be aware and making sure. We've been through 3 economic development officers at the county in this past term. So we're really hoping we get some traction and get some promotion out there and show us what Mountain View County has to offer. We have big lots. We're not really into lots that have water and wastewater, but if you need a lot of space and not a lot of that you can run on a well and a septic system, we got the space for you.
Thank you, and Ed.
Yeah, my colleagues have kind of covered it a lot. I mean, tax revenue and expenses, tax revenue decreasing from the linear and from the provincial government, and expenses not going down because of the cost of inflation. Economic development, I think we need to seriously look at enabling everybody at the county, enabling and going out and promoting the county. The county here is a very rich area that has a lot to promote. And I think there's a lot of good opportunities, but I think we have to look at all the businesses that we can draw in. I think we need to look at the existing businesses there that we might be able to see what we can do to increase their business and their capacity. And I don't know this, but I don't think that the county has a purchase local agreement. You know, I do know some companies here that manufacture world-class products that go overseas, and I don't think they're bidding on it, and they could probably do it cheaper. So I think there's a lot of areas we can look at it, but tax revenue, expenses, that is going to be the big issue in the upcoming term.
Thank you, Ed. And I think next question. Well, we're out of time for questions. So now, I didn't want to make sure I didn't miss you, but I have you written down here. So now we're going to move on to our round 3 of our night. And that entails each of candidates has 2 minutes to kind of wrap up the evening and some final thoughts. So we'll start in reverse order. So we will start with Dwayne. So we'll start with Dwayne from round 3. And you go first, please.
All right. Well, first off, I'd just like to thank all the other candidates who came out tonight from the earlier session and tonight. It was very enlightening. Just getting to see your picture online or in the paper is a lot different than being in the same room. I'd like to thank the county and administration for putting this together. It's a different situation than last time. And I'd just like to say again, it has been my honor to serve as Division 1 counselor. It wasn't something I had before that I'd ever really thought about, but I really enjoyed my time. All the 4-H preparation and all the other things I was in, it really set me up to do well here at council. This group of counselors has taught me a lot, learned lots, and I'm gonna definitely miss the ones that are moving off, and I guess we'll see who shows up for the next time, but it's definitely a lot more to it than you think. 800-page agendas become the norm, so you get to learn how to read quick and do things, but hopefully with your support for my re-election, I can continue to be a voice for agriculture. I am a farmer. I grow hay. I got cereals and oil seeds. I look after pasture. I'm out fixing fence. So I know agriculture across the area. And I'd like to ensure that the county is effective and efficient and streamlined in looking after the day-to-day operations and our maintenance. And I'm very much a stickler there. I like to keep the budget as tight as possible. So thanks everyone for coming out, taking time tonight to tune in, and we'll catch up with you later.
Thank you. Ed.
Well, I want to thank the county too for putting this together and the candidates for putting their name forward. In my experience in different careers and traveling overseas and marketing agricultural goods overseas, I think that we've got to sit down and remember how blessed we are to be in this county. We have fertile grain land in the east. We have great cattle and grazing lands in the west. We have the premier college in Canada, 24%, now this may be dated, but 24% of all English-speaking graduates, diploma graduates, graduate out of Olds College. They've now got this Farm Smart operation. It's a world-class operation. The hay exporting business started in this county, actually started at Olds College, went to Cremona and is at Olds and throughout the county. So for nationally, we are the center of developing that sort of thing. We take that for granted. We have the oil and gas industry that it's dwindling, but it's not going to go away immediately. And we have to enable and encourage that to continue on as long as we can. We've got tourism and recreation that I think is a great thing that we can develop. And I think we can put up our industrial parks in the corridor. We have lots of opportunities that I think the cup is definitely half full and there's opportunities. We got some challenges, but I think that we can work through it. I think we have to think at the 30,000 foot level of development, have all of our staff and employees enable development opportunities and have a positive attitude. So thank you again, and I hope you will give me your vote in Division 1 to carry forward. Thank you very much again, and thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Our next, Alex Hogarth.
Thank you again for having us all out here. I think everyone tonight had very amazing points, and I think anyone up here would be a great representative for our county. Yeah, I just think going forward, we have so much opportunity in our county to continue growing and creating diversity within our economy. And yeah, I'm really excited for how the county is going to take on the challenges in the future and be innovative and creative with those tasks ahead. And I would love to be the representative who would sit and work with the other councillors and our constituents on those tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. David.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the county for putting this together. It really is appreciative, especially in this time when door knocking isn't really the most prudent thing to be doing with the pandemic going on. So also, to mirror what Alex said, I think every single person here has proven that they're more than adequate and qualified to do a great role in supporting the county. Ultimately, at the end of the day, my last point I want to make is that, if I'm elected as a counselor, my job is to work for you, the residents within the county of Mountain View, and to try and be your support. So I want to make sure that people are aware that my life has always been 24/7, 365. There's been no such thing as days off in our family with business and with real estate. It's the same kind of thing. So I have no problem with receiving phone calls at all hours and having discussions and doing what we can. I think a collaborative approach is usually the most effective approach, and don't just come with problems, but sometimes come with solutions or ideas, and that I think can really be a benefit. And I'd like to, as a counselor, I would like to encourage the staff and the administration to do the absolute best they can, and again try and create an open, transparent workplace and allow people to bring ideas that may help benefit the community. Last, I'd like to thank my wife. I know that this is going to be, if elected, it's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to be, one more thing. So she's really encouraged me to pursue this, and I want to thank her and my kids for being open to this. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Jennifer gets the last word.
for putting this on. It's been great, and whoever gets elected, I'll still be a part of the county, and I'd be happy to help anybody. I care very passionately about this community, and I want it to be a place for my grandkids that they can grow and flourish, and the next generation and the next generation. What I think I bring to the table is I think I'm very strategic. My municipal experience has shown councillors that maybe fixate on something smaller, and I think I do see big picture. That's kind of just in my nature. I can guarantee you I'd be very prepared. Those 800-page agendas, they intimidate me when I'm trying to download them on rural internet, but the actual package does not intimidate me. I know staff are probably watching this, and I want to make sure that staff know. I know that there's one employee, and that's the CAO, and I know how council and administration works, and I can do that effectively. I think I know the pieces of the puzzle. I've worked with lots of levels of government and stakeholders, and understand the system, which I think could be helpful. And I definitely understand public engagement, and that councillors need to listen, be engaged, and be transparent. So I would definitely commit to doing that. It's been a long night and it's past my bedtime. I think I did make one misstatement, and I just wanted to clarify that. I think I said $300 for taxation on farmland, and I know it's more like $700 to $800. I don't want to get slammed for that, and a zillion text messages there. Like David with emergency management, I've been on sour gas pipeline releases and all hours of the night and day. So being on call is something that I'm quite used to. So be happy to take calls or texts or visits anytime from the entire county, not just Division 7. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I can represent you.
Oh, you managed to sneak in a couple of words there at last. Christopher was generous. Well, thank you everyone for your participation tonight. Because I can't turn your microphone. We can turn your microphone off, Jen. There you go. So this concludes our Division 1 and Division 7 candidates forum. I thank you for your participation in the forum. Tomorrow, Mountain View County is pleased to offer Division 4 candidates at forum at 6 p.m. and Division 5 and 6 candidates forum at 8 p.m. The links for both of those forums can be found on the website. And finally, I have something else to say that Christopher's got for me. I could just wing it. Anyway, I just want to thank you all for your attention tonight, for taking the time to come, for putting your names forward. It's not an easy position to be in. You'll find there is a great deal to learn. And I think that after this length of time, it's also very difficult to sit and listen to some of the comments for a current counselor who's been around for a few years, and to think that perhaps we weren't doing our best when it comes to being efficient. And when I think about the times and the hours and hours we spend going through budgets line by line, looking for ways to reduce costs to make sure that we are running as efficient operation as we can. So I wish you all the best in finding new ways to do that, diversifying our economy within the county. And I think it's a great opportunity, and I hope that people will take the time to not only be here tonight, but also listen to those and the recordings on our website. I encourage you to ask people to do that and encourage them to come out to vote. Our turnouts are not extremely high in municipal elections, and I think it's unfortunate because this is an opportunity that we have an opportunity to make change and to accept people to run our county for us. And it's a democratic process that we need to recognize. So thank you for your participation. Thanks for the folks that participated tonight, and good luck in the election.